Reality comes to you compliments. Republic Bank, we're the one for you. Classic Lighting, Budget Marine Grenada, Spice Isle Imaging Center, Hubbard's, Grenada Paper Products, Quick and Easy, Royal, and Horizon Paper Towels.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Climate Reality Season 2, Episode 9. Boy, how time goes by. This evening, we have a very special discussion, and I'm sure you may have heard, throughout the month, November being CARICOM Energy Month. And of course, the folks from the Ministry of Climate Change, they've been on various programs talking about Energy Month and some of the activities that has been taking place. Tonight we have two very special guests with us, and this week we are looking at energy and initiatives across the CARICOM region related to energy. As we are aware, energy is central to all that we do, whether it is in the form of electricity in our homes or through the use of fuel for transportation and the like. However, our current sources of energy are also the cause of one of the biggest threats to our livelihoods and our planets through the greenhouse gases that they emit every time we use these energy sources. Renewable energy is energy derived from natural sources that are replenished at a higher rate than they are consumed. Sunlight and wind, for example, are such sources that are constantly being replenished. Renewable energy sources are plentiful and all around us. Fossil fuels, coal, oil, and gas, on the other hand, are non-renewable resources, and they take hundreds of millions of years to form. Fossil fuels, when burned to produce energy, cause harmful greenhouse gas emissions, such as carbon dioxide. Generating renewable energy creates far lower emissions than burning fossil fuels. Transitioning from fossil fuels, which currently account actually for a lion's share of emissions, to renewable energy is key to addressing the climate crisis. Renewables are now cheaper in most countries and generate 3 times more jobs than fossil fuels. The region is on a drive to diversify out of these fossil fuel energy sources, and every year for the last 8 years has designated November as Energy Month across the region. This year, the theme for Energy Month is Accelerating Innovation, Driving Electrification, Powering Transport. The activities in Grenada are being coordinated by the Ministry of Climate Resilience, and joining us tonight are 2 representatives from that ministry who are intimately involved in the Energy Month activities. It is a pleasure, of course, to welcome them to the show this evening. Of course, when we come back from the break, we'll ask them to introduce themselves so you know who they are and what they do. Also, when we come back from the break, this week in Climate. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
As of October 2nd, 2023, the Hubbard's Rewards program will have some exciting new features to better serve you. Streamlined loyalty experience. That is, no more waiting for vouchers to be issued on a quarterly basis via traditional mail. Instant redemption. This means loyalty points earned can be redeemed immediately after purchase and applied towards your future cash purchases upon checking out. Check status. You can instantly review your reward points when checking checking out or on your printed receipt. Sign up today and start saving when you shop at any Hubbard's department, including the Food Fair and Grenadian General Insurance Company Limited. Please note that existing vouchers are still valid once not expired. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Building or renovating your home or business? Why not use clean, renewable energy? Install solar panels to power your home and office and see your energy costs go down and your savings go up. Using renewable solar-powered energy protects our environment, reduces our carbon footprint, and slows the devastating impact of climate change. Republic Bank can help to finance construction and renovations that make use of renewable energy. Visit any Republic Bank branch and ask about renewable energy financing options today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Your life is yours, your future's in your hands. Your body is yours, that's why you need a plan. You gotta plan your family, avoid HIV, get the education from the Grenada Planned Parenthood Association.
We offer STI screening, gender-based violence counseling, prenatal and postnatal checks, injectables, condoms, pap smears, and other sexual reproductive services. Open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Pointe Street, St. George's. Whether male or female, it doesn't matter. We're here to make your life better.
Grenada Planned Parenthood Association.
For appointments, call 440-3341.
Have you heard about the new Softweave bathroom tissue with total hygiene? As hygiene and safety have taken center stage, our bathroom tissue is now manufactured with 3 different technologies to offer the best protection for you and your family. UVC light technology for a safe and effective disinfection process, eliminating 99.9% of microorganisms. Also, production at high temperatures, killing all types of germs and bacteria. And it's pH controlled with delicate fibers to prevent irritation for even sensitive skin. Softweave Total Hygiene Bathroom Tissue. Available in supermarkets and shops island-wide. Visit Softweave Caribbean Facebook or Instagram pages for more information.
I'm a VIP. I'm a VIP.
I am VIP. I am vaccinated. I am immunized. I am protected. Our children and nation depend on vaccination for immunization. Childhood vaccination is national priority. It is their protection from disease and sicknesses. Let's all be VIPs and safeguard our beautiful Grenada. I am DJ Blackstorm and I am a VIP health champion. Be a VIP like me.
Let's all be VIP champions.
A message from the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Religious Affairs. Be a VIP Childhood Vaccination and Immunization Campaign in collaboration with UNICEF and the Pan American Health Organization.
It's a happier holiday when every wish and dream can come alive for those you love and cherish with a loan from Nexa Credit Union. Just think of the experiences you could share, the surprises you could gift, and the memories you could make with a little extra in your pocket this Christmas. Our Happier Holiday Loan is about the happiness and warmth it can bring because there's no need to worry. Unwrap more than just gifts. Experience heartfelt connections and joyous celebrations with family and friends. Get up to $50,000 for home furnishings, renovations, gifts, and more while enjoying easy repayment terms, affordable interest rates, and quick approvals. So, dream a little bigger and enjoy discounts galore at our favorite partner stores. Make your holidays happier with Nexa. Call us at 440-1354. Visit our website at nexacreditunion.com or email us at loans@nexacreditunion.com. Nexa Credit Union, with you wherever your road leads.
Solar Vision is the champion. We're lighting up the whole Caribbean. Solar Vision is the champion. We lighting the whole Caribbean. The ultimate solution to get rid of pollution. We're going green to be healthy. Going green for security. Going green for prosperity. Going green with Solar Vision. We're going green.
Available at Grenada Trade Center, Montrouge, St. George. For more information, call 444-5291 or 404-9012.
How do you choose your toilet paper? Just because it's soft and nice. That's how I choose my toilet paper. Made right here in the Isle of Spice. Cherish spring soft Harbor Bay. Super value every day. The price is right and locally they're made. Support local when you purchase Cherish and other quality brands from Grenada Paper Products.
Welcome back, everyone. It's our Climate Reality, and of course, we welcome all our viewers on GBN Television, our friends on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also our listeners on K105 FM. As we get ready to go into this week in climate, we focus on climate change and health. And recently, there was a symposium held to discuss the heat threshold in Grenada. This Week in Climate by Dr. Lindonna Ellisford.
We looked at the data held by our Ministry of Health and also looked at data from the Met Office at Point Salines. Now, you may hear a lot about the impacts of climate change as we just spoke about it, the health impacts. But it is important for every country to look at the specific impacts on their own population. Yes, there is the regional context and the regional outcomes that we can speak to. Mostly we borrow from the international community, but we took some time to look at what was happening in Grenada and whether there was any relationship between what was reported to the Ministry of Health and temperature and rainfall and relative humidity in Grenada. And while we did not find any significant relationships per se between relative humidity and some of the outcomes or the health cases reported, we found that there were relationships between temperature and rainfall and some diseases. So in essence, in Grenada, we looked at relationship between those three METs indices and acute respiratory syndrome. We also look at relationship with asthma. We looked at relationship with dengue, hemorrhagic fever. We looked at relationship with diarrhea, gastrointestinal illness. We also looked at relationship with leptospirosis and rabies, right? Rabies, we do not have per se cases recorded in Grenada, but there is some amount of data reported in terms of encounter probably with animals or so by the Ministry of Health. So we look at that information and whether there was a relationship between those factors and temperature and so. What we found were relationships between three health outcomes and temperature and rainfall. So we found that there was a significant relationship between temperature and dengue fever, or reporting of dengue fever in Grenada, with the likelihood of cases increasing when the average monthly temperature was greater than 29 degrees Celsius, compared to when the average monthly temperature was 26 degrees Celsius or less. In other words, to make it simple, when it was warmer, 29 degrees Celsius and above, we found that there was a relationship, or there were more reports of dengue fever in Grenada. Keep in mind, we're talking about the monthly average here, okay? We also found that there was a relationship, a significant relationship between rainfall and dengue fever. So it was not just temperature, but also rainfall. So when we have had a rainfall 271 to 300 millimeters, that's kind of in the upper values, the highest values. When we had a lot of rainfall, in other words, we found that there was a higher amount of dengue cases reported as compared to when there was lower rainfall, 90 millimeters or less. And we're talking here about monthly average. So the more rainfall you have and the higher the temperature, more likely you will have reports of dengue fever.
Thank you, Dr. Telesford. And now, before we get into our discussion, we'll ask our guests to take 30 seconds just to introduce themselves. And we'll start with Mr. Christopher Joseph. Mr. Joseph, good evening and welcome to our Climate Reality.
Thank you very much, Mr. Augustine. Good evening to your audience in terms of the listening and viewing audience. At the ministry, I is responsible for environmental management activities and also climate mitigation in the context of climate change.
Thank you very much. Mr. Leslie Smith, no stranger, but nevertheless, introduce yourself.
Yeah, good evening to you too, Mr. Augustine, and good evening to all of your listeners and the viewers. So, as you mentioned, my name is Leslie Smith, and I am the National Ozone Officer within the ministry, with particular responsibility for the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. And I also provide some services with energy efficiency in the cooling sector and solar PV for the ministry.
Thank you very much, Leslie and Chris. And we're going to start with Chris. We're looking at CARICOM Energy Month. Of course, the month of November, we established that early. And Chris, I want to start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about the CARICOM Energy Month?
Thank you. So CARICOM Energy Month is actually an initiative at the regional level. It happens every year, and the aim of this initiative, if you will, is to promote and support sustainable energy development within the CARICOM community. The initiative's main objective is to highlight, if you will, the role of citizens in transforming the region towards a sustainable future. A sustainable future, what exactly is this? So in terms of our human survival, the survival of us as humans, survival of planet Earth as we know it now, and here we consider the nexus or the link between the use of fossil fuel and the climate change. So this fossil fuel use, if you will, and other activities contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, which ultimately trap heat within Earth's atmosphere, contributing to global warming and ultimately the change in the climate as is being evidenced now. So it is an opportunity to bring spotlight and focus to those issues, if you will, so that ultimately as humans, citizens of the region, we can make informed decisions relative to the choices that we make so that there can be a better outcome.
Right, thank you. And of course you mentioned the region, but let's come home a bit. What are some of the activities that are taking place in Grenada?
So the entire month of November is considered as Energy Month. So we began the 1st of November with a soft launch at the ministerial complex, if you will, and wherein we engage the public, the visitors to the ministerial complex, providing information with them, engaging the media in terms of, bringing to focus what the month was about, the activities that will be undertaken throughout the month. So that was the 1st of November. Since then, we have on the 10th of November been able to execute what we refer to as an exhibition of stakeholders. These varied stakeholders that are involved in sustainable energy practices in terms of products, for example, and this is private sector stakeholders, so products that they offer to the public in terms of lighting, in terms of air conditioning technology, and so forth. It was also the opportunity for the schools to be involved, so we had TAMCC and NULO participating, sharing information to the public in terms of robotics, in terms of technologies, and these things are related to their studies at the tertiary institution. So giving the public the opportunity to be aware of that, and these things are going to be solutions to the problems that we are currently existing. There were financing institutions there, so for example the Grenada Development Bank and Republic Bank. They are key in our trust to be able to facilitate this transition to cleaner energy sources, if you will. So they were there to provide information to the public in terms of their financing portfolio, so that the general public who are citizens to make this change ultimately could be aware of the mechanisms relative to financing so that they can undertake the necessary transition. We also had, in terms of, so this month the focus is on electric vehicles as part of that transition, and there was a stakeholder there who essentially brought to the public information pertaining to the products that he has to offer the public at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell me a bit about the impact that some of these activities had, and those yeah.
So there have also been a walk, and we've undertaken 2 thus far. Our count gives us approximately 500 individuals participating thus far. It was an opportunity to again provide information to the public in terms of practicing best practices relative to conserving energy, using energy more efficiently, and so forth. So in terms of reaching the public through these activities that we've undertaken thus far, I think that it has been quite positive in being able to share. There were bits of information that we also provided in terms of hard copies, so people had takeaway items that they had information pertaining to best practices as it relates to the daily use of energy. So I think that we have managed to reach a very wide cross-section of individuals, so ultimately they can make more informed decisions in their daily lifestyles. And tonight, being on this program is also another opportunity to reach individuals who are out there viewing and listening to us, so that they too can have better information, if you will. Christmas is fast approaching. Individuals are going to be purchasing, maybe interested in purchasing electrical appliances, for example. So hopefully through this conversation we are going to help inform them in terms of the do's and the don'ts and better choices that they can make.
Interestingly, as you mentioned Christmas and people purchasing, this Friday the Classic Lighting Caribbean, they're launching an event at the Trade Center where they would be putting out solar generators, solar fans, all of these things that people use, and that's a form of renewable energy. And I know I did hear that Mr. Smith is carded to make a few remarks at that launch. But I'm gonna come to him just now. But
so then that's fantastic, because I mean it's about trying to the different stakeholders within the society have it's about trying to empower every individual to be able to make informed choices, and to the extent that the private sector is on board and being able to offer to the general public equipment to which we are speaking of in terms of what can add value to change out the status quo. Fossil fuel is having a damning effect on the environment, and we're trying to promote and push more sustainable sources, renewable sources, and to the extent that we are able to have products that is not dependent on the use of fossil fuels, and the public can purchase these items. That is part of the positive change out that we're advocating.
Lowering the carbon footprint.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Chris, just before we go to the break and we bring in Leslie, CARICOM Energy Month. Is there any collaboration with the region in some of the activities that's been taking place?
Absolutely. So there are a number of regional organizations that is part of this process. So at the beginning of the process, we had collaborated with CCRI, for example, and CCRI is about that center in Barbados that is charged with the responsibility for energy efficiency and renewable energy. So CCRI, the Caribbean Development Bank, CARICOM, they have key roles to play in the context of the celebration, if you will, of CARICOM Energy Month. In Jamaica, the 7th to the 9th, there was a major forum that took place, and it was in the context of sustainable energy in the context of this theme, and our minister participated in a number of panel discussions, if you will, at that forum. It was an opportunity to bring various stakeholders, so government officials, the private sector, and others, to be able to hybrid and take the conversation to new levels, if you will, in terms of being able to facilitate at the regional, trickling down to our domestic countries as part of the CARICOM community, to be able to ultimately contribute to the objectives of the various policy statements that at the CARICOM level, there is a CARICOM energy policy. At our national level, there is a national energy policy that has certain objectives. So it's about bringing stakeholders together, all with the view of trying to facilitate this transition, if you will, from the use of fossil fuel, which can be considered to be a dirty or bad fuel, to something that is more sustainable, something that is way cleaner. And there are links in terms of agriculture. There's negative health as a result of the use of the fossil fuel and so forth. So it's all about trying to transition to this better, cleaner way of life.
Right. Thank you very much indeed. And I know recently there was a 3-day workshop by GeoBuild on geothermal energy here in Grenada.
Absolutely, and that's where I was going to. So as part of this transition and the movement towards cleaner fuel, so Grenada imports close to 1 million barrels of oil to be able to power our needs on a yearly basis. This is a considerable sum of money in terms of cost to the Grenadian society, maybe upwards of 70 million EC dollars. So to the extent, in the context that we are trying to find more sustainable, cleaner forms of energy, geothermal is one of those possibilities. And from the desktop analysis thus far, the science indicates that there is a possibility of being able to produce about 15 megawatts of electricity from this geothermal source. This is going to be a major advantage to us in terms of being able to phase out fossil fuel. That is going to equate to about 5.5 million barrels of oil if we're ultimately able to tap into that resource. It is going to be able to provide about 42% of electricity needs for our Grenadian households, essentially being able to power, supply all of our household needs of electricity from the geothermal. So that which you reference is in the context of this initiative, which is currently at a phase wherein an environmental impact and social assessment has been done relative to the potential sites that have been identified through this desktop analysis that has been undertaken thus far. There have been consultations with the community in terms of being able to provide feedback and so forth. So it is a journey, it is a process, and we are currently trying to investigate. It's about trying to diversify our energy options. So as we move away from fossil fuel, what are those cleaner options? And geothermal and solar, for example, provide very great possibilities at the moment. So.
Thank you very much, Chris. So we take a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll bring in Leslie into the conversation, and he's the National Ozone Officer. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Cherish, and other quality brands from Grenada Paper Products.
Hubbard's is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at hubbardshardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
Building or renovating your home or business? Why not use clean, renewable energy? Install solar panels to power your home and office and see your energy costs go down and your savings go up. Using renewable solar-powered energy protects our environment, reduces our carbon footprint, and slows the devastating impact of climate change. Republic Bank can help to finance construction and renovations that make use of renewable energy. Visit any Republic Bank branch and ask about renewable energy financing options today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
How do you choose your toilet paper? Just because it's soft and nice. That's how I choose my toilet paper. Made right here in the Isle of Spice. Cherish Springs off Harbor Bay. Super value every day. The price is right and locally they're made. Support local when you purchase Cherish and other quality brands from Grenada Paper Products.
Solar Vision is the champion. We lighten up the whole Caribbean. Solar Vision is the champion. We lighten the whole Caribbean. The ultimate solution to get rid of pollution. We going green to be healthy. Going green for security. Going green for prosperity. Going green with Solar Vision. We going green.
Available at Grenada Trade Center, Montrouge, St. George. For more information, call 444-5291 or 404-9012.
Our environment is our responsibility. Budget Marine contributes by selling environmentally friendly products. For example, we sell lightweight open boats that require a relatively small engine. Best to combine with our Tohatsu 4-stroke engines. They use little fuel and have a low emission. Carib Marine solar panels are specially made to withstand the Caribbean climate. The panels are suitable for use at home and on the boat. The required chargers and converters are also available from Budget Marine. Keeping your car and boat clean extends the lifespan. But residues of the cleaning products disappear in nature. We at Budget Marine sell eco-friendly cleaning products from EcoWorks, not harmful to nature and also clean very well. Plastic junk in our oceans is a major problem. Fortunately, there are companies that clean up and reuse the plastic into usable products. Marlowe, manufacturer of lines and ropes, produces docking lines made out of plastic waste. Another company is Sperry Shoes. Sperry has a collection made from used fabrics and plastic waste. Just a few examples of how we at Budget Marine contribute to help protecting our environment. We care.
Welcome back, everyone. It's our Climate Reality, and we're talking to Mr. Chris Joseph and Mr. Leslie Smith, both from the Ministry of Climate Change. Leslie, it's time to bring you into the conversation. Now, let's talk about the wider energy programming in Grenada. Now, awareness activities like Energy Month, that's helpful indeed. But what concrete incentives are in place to encourage persons to get involved in increasing their energy efficiency and making the changes to renewable energy? That's a long question.
Yeah, thank you, Godfrey, and thank you for the opportunity once more. But before we get into that, we must understand what is the mission of the ministry. And the mission of this ministry, which is the Ministry of Climate Resilience, the Environment and Renewable Energy, is to be the premier agent of government that's going to mainstream climate, biodiversity, environment, and renewable energy in partnership with the public, private sector, civil organizations, and also mobilizing resources to reduce the impact of climate change. So that's the mission of the ministry. Centered to that mission is the energy transition to renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy conservation. So Mr. Joseph here spoke a lot about this energy transition in terms of moving away from this fossil-based fuel for electricity generation into those renewable energies. And it's not only about electricity generation, but it's also about the transport sector, how we move away from the dirty fuel, as he called it, into more sustainable and renewable fuel. But within government, there are a number of initiatives and programs and incentives, as you ask about, that have been established to promote and to advance the causes of this energy transition. So there are 4 approaches towards these policies and incentives. One is, first of all, policy and legislation, enacting and establishing the relevant policies and legislation to drive this process. The second area is really capacity development and training and enhancing that institutional strengthening mechanism to be able to adopt those technologies. There's a third factor of monitoring, evaluating, and reporting on what is happening so that we can benchmark and assess what we're doing to see what needs to be done differently, how we can enhance our programming, etc. at the ministry. So in this regard, a number of incentives have been created and a number of policies have been created. I want to just highlight maybe a few of the policies that are in place. So maybe the first one that is of maybe the most significance is the National Energy Policy 2023 to 2035. So in 2011, we had our first National Energy Policy that had a 10-year lifespan and really expired, so to speak, in 2021. Subsequent to that, with assistance from the World Bank, we've been able now to update our National Energy Policy, and we now have a new National Energy Policy in place effective 2023 to 2035. And inside that, it speaks a lot about all of the energy transition that I spoke about, energy efficiency, energy conservation, capacity development, resourcing the ministry, the whole organizational structure, all of that, the targets, all of that is inside of that policy. Further to that, within the ministry, we have established 3 standards that drives this process as well. So there is the energy efficient labeling standards for refrigerating appliances, energy efficient standard for air conditioning appliances, energy efficient standards for compact fluorescents, or what we call CFLs, and LEDs. And inside of that, in those, especially those for refrigeration and air conditioning, there are minimum energy performance standards of these appliances to ensure that we bring into the country the most energy efficient appliances. The other factor is one of public awareness and education, getting people to understand energy efficiency, renewable energy, and how they can make the informed choices that Mr. Joseph was speaking about in terms of what they purchase, purchasing the most energy efficient appliances, moving to renewable energy, etc. And in this regard, a number of other incentives have been created. And I want to dwell on maybe 2 of the most significant ones, which people are really would like to hear, and which we would love to have the opportunity to do much more awareness of those pieces of incentives that have been created by the ministry and by the government by extension. So for example, persons who want to get into renewable energy, any component of your renewable energy project, from the modules, or what you call locally the panels, the inverters, the batteries, the wires, the racks, nuts and bolts, everything related to that attracts now 100% concession on duties and taxes. So essentially, government have removed all the taxes on solar PV components, also on solar heating components. So with solar, there are 2 aspects. There is solar PV, or solar voltaic, which harnesses the light from the sun, and there is solar thermal, which harnesses the heat from the sun. So both solar PV and solar thermal attracts now 100% concession. In addition to that, people in the transportation sector, there are also incentives to transition away from the internal combustion engine vehicles into hybrids and full electric vehicles. And in this regard, government is offering a 75% concession on hybrids and full electric vehicles to advance and to promote and to increase the uptake of those vehicles. Fuel emissions is one of the biggest sector that releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and there are targets that are set by the ministry within the National Energy Policy to transition into these electric vehicles and hybrids, and so those incentives have been created just for that. So people need to be aware, people need to take advantage of that, and because the price of renewable energy is going down, as you mentioned in your initial introduction as well, the payback period is much shorter, and because of the high prices of fuel as well, it even makes the payback even shorter and more attractive to get into that. So on average, we say there's a payback period of 6 to 8 years. There are instances where it can be even shorter. These components, in case of the modules, have a warranty of 20 to 25 years. So even if you recover your investment in 6 to 8 years, it means that thereafter, the savings that you're generating is money that you can invest into several other areas. So we are encouraging people to make those transitions to clean energy. And the reason for that is because we really want to safeguard our environment. We want to preserve our environment. Small and developing states are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. We have not created the problem, but we are most vulnerable. It's like you invite me to the party, Godfrey, and I have to buy the drinks. Okay? So we didn't create it, we have to resolve it. And so transitioning to renewable energy and energy efficiency are key areas to focus on. Energy efficiency, we cannot live without. As a matter of fact, we regard it within the energy circle, energy efficiency as the first fuel. Because if we achieve energy efficiency, it means that we are demanding less electricity, we are consuming less, it means that our emissions will be less. And so even if you have to design a solar PV system, we will design a smaller system, it will cost less, and so we'll enjoy the benefits. Energy conservation is another area because there's a difference between energy efficiency and energy conservation. So energy conservation now deals with the behavioral changes that we need to make to avoid or to reduce the use of energy. So an example of that is turning off the switch if you're leaving the room for the lights so that you will not have to use electricity. And an example of energy efficiency is simply replacing the light bulbs in your house with LEDs. So you are introducing technology to reduce on energy or using the same amount of energy for a greater output. And so we're promoting all three, energy efficiency, energy conservation, and renewable energy as those areas in the energy transition that the country is now pursuing.
Leslie, let me just tease you here a little bit. We've heard talks that Grenada has significant amount of oil in our oceans. Are we going to just forget about that because we're heading into renewable?
Well, if you want my personal opinion on that, as an environmentalist, definitely my interest would not be in that area.
Okay.
We have just maybe even more, the abundance of sunshine that we can harness every day. 5 to 6 hours of good solar irradiance that we can harness the same amount of energy and clean energy to safeguard our future. We have wind. Although it's intermittent in nature, just like the sun, can still provide some energy. We have water. We have the ocean. So we can look at wave technology. We can look at offshore solar farms, offshore wind farms. So in my honest opinion, there is no need for us to look towards that. Okay. It may bring revenue to the country, but if you look at the environmental impact, we may have the money, but if we don't have a good environment, how would we be able to enjoy that money? So our environment has to be given the priority over these other options that may be available.
But let's do a little thing here in terms of renewables, and let's convert that into revenue. How much revenue can we generate, or can we generate more from renewables in terms of what we have to do, as compared to fossil?
Well, the research has shown that it is much more cost effective to generate electricity from renewables than from fossil-based sources, right? So we have the sun, which we can say is free. We have the wind, which we can say is free. And where prices are going on now, what we need to do is to do utility scale renewable energy electricity generation. So not just only rooftop applications, but utility scale where we have solar farms, where we have wind farms in the megawatts that we can use to generate electricity. And the cost, the levelized cost, what we refer to as the levelized cost, is much lower in generating renewable energy electricity than if you have to use fossil-based applications. So the utility company Grenlec is now actively pursuing generating electricity from renewable energy sources, primarily solar PV, and they have some big plans which can result in up to 34 megawatts, including geothermal, which is really the game changer. And with a peak demand of what we've seen this year, for example, at 38 megawatts, they can offset maybe almost 100% from renewable energy of the peak demand as is current. So to me, it's a win-win, it's a go, it's the return on investment is very good, and it's something that we need to promote and encourage as much as possible.
Right. Any other plans on the table that we here in Grenada can look forward to as it relates to renewables and so?
Well, before I go into plans, I just want to highlight a major project that we have with regards to solar PV, and that's on the sister isle of Carriacou. With financial assistance in the form of a grant from the UAE government, we are about to commission now. As a matter of fact, testing of the facility started today. The construction has been completed. An 850 kilowatt peak solar PV hybrid system in Carriacou with 400 kilowatts of battery storage as well, which is going to offset 15% of the fuel consumption for electricity in Carriacou. And that's going to be the biggest solar PV plant on the island. There are plans to upscale that to make Carriacou, at the end of the day, 100% dependent on renewable energy for electricity generation. And then there are other plans on the mainland now that Grenlec is pursuing to do a 21 megawatt solar PV facility at different locations that again will offset the production of electricity through renewable energy generations. But in addition to that, we also want to promote rooftop solar PV applications at the residential level and at the commercial level. And that too will offset and bring us closer to the 100% that we're trying to achieve with renewable energy.
Right. Some countries have introduced specific legislation, performance standards and the like. Are we going down that route as well?
Yes, and that's a good area. We definitely have to go down that route. So for example, CARICOM have developed some standards that we want to adopt here in Grenada with regards to building performance and the energy efficiency use of those buildings, the energy, what we call the energy efficiency index of those buildings. So we want to pursue those. We have the Electricity Supply Act, which basically liberalizes the generation of electricity. We also have the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission Act, and now they have some consultations for an interim tariff for renewable energy into the electricity bills that we're going to be receiving. So there are a number of these legislation that are currently on the table that is geared towards promoting and increasing the uptake of solar PV. So the incentives that I mentioned is one where there are no taxes now on solar PV. The cost is going down. We expect that the importers of these products would pass down the savings to the end users and the consumers to make it more affordable and to allow much more people to install solar on the rooftop.
Right, fantastic. I'm going to throw something out, and both you and Chris can comment on it. Now, recently there was a symposium. As a matter of fact, yesterday there was a symposium, the 22nd, dealing with the heat threshold in Grenada, because we know studies was done as it related to that. And we know in recent weeks there's been some heat waves leaving us looking for ways to cool down. Any guidance in terms of how we can use things like air conditioning unit, fans and so? And I did mention earlier that on Friday there is an exposition at the Trade Center where people can get to purchase solar fans, solar generators, solar lights, all of that. Any guidance you can share with our listeners?
So maybe I could take the first bite at the cherry here. It has been recorded that 2023 has been one of the hottest years on record. As a matter of fact, every year the average temperature gets hotter and hotter. And so 2023 was no exception. And people in Grenada would tell you it was very hot. The amount of air conditioners that have been sold and installed has been unprecedented. Many of the companies ran out of air conditioners. And globally, that's the trend as well. So this has implications for many, many things. It has implications for our own health and comfort. It has implications for our power generation, because 95% of our electricity it comes from fossil fuel. So it means that the emissions related is high. And then it has implications for economic situation, because now if we are going to be using air conditioners, it means that we are going to be spending more for electricity. What we encourage from the ministry is that people seek shade, people cool down, people, where possible, where you have to use mechanical ventilation, air conditioning, you purchase the most energy efficient ones. You can contact us at the ministry. We can tell you what energy efficiency ratio to look for in these appliances. We can actually calculate for you the energy consumption and cost associated with the hours of usage of the air conditioners, and also to use those that are using natural refrigerants or refrigerants with low global warming potential in order to protect the environment as well. At the end of the day, we want people to be comfortable. We want to strive for comfort cooling. If you can't afford an air conditioner, a fan could work. But we're promoting first and foremost natural ventilation. So from the construction phases of our buildings, we should take that into consideration. From the operational side, so you open windows, you allow free flow of wind and convection to occur within the buildings. And the last resort really should be mechanical ventilation and air conditioning. But we know in some instances where you're locked in within a building and there are no windows and so on, there's actually no choice. But again, we are promoting the most energy efficient appliances and responsible use of the air conditioners as well. And I just want to zero in on that very quickly, Godfrey. There is no point in setting your thermostat or your air conditioner below 24 degrees Celsius. 24 degrees Celsius is the law in some countries, or the standard in some countries. And even if you set it at 16 or 17 and you're thinking that the room would cool down faster, that's really a myth. All right? And so you'll just be consuming more energy and not being able to achieve what you think you want to achieve. So the mere fact that you see people within rooms with a cardigan or a coat, it means that the air conditioner is too cold. So we recommend 24 degrees Celsius in most instances. But that again depends on the use of the room, the use of the building. But the average or the standard is really 24 degrees Celsius.
Well, Leslie, we have to agree that we're seeing rising temperatures. Temperatures are rising. And if I could maybe borrow some words from one of Third World song, 96 degrees in the shade. Even in the shade, and you're talking about creating shade. It's getting hot, and when you look at the humidity, the feel-like temperature, that is becoming a problem. So what do we do?
Right, so these problems are direct impacts of climate change and the emissions that are causing that. So we have to address climate change. We have to see how we can reduce our emissions. There is this thrust now to 1.5 reduction in temperature by the end of the century. We really have to make a strong effort to achieve that. So it's not just talking the talk, but we have to walk the walk. Governments really have to put a lot more into it. The developed countries who have essentially created the problem need to really pump more money into how us as developing countries who have not created the problem, but are most vulnerable, how we can tackle that and how we can mitigate and adapt to all of the impacts. But you're right, atmospheric temperatures are rising. Because we are also island states and we are surrounded by the ocean, the humidity is very high. It increases that heat factor, makes it even more uncomfortable for us. And so we really need to address that situation. It's not an easy one. It's a very costly one as well. And it requires a lot of policy direction, a lot of legislation and action by individuals on the ground to ensure that we can all play our part in this global cause.
Chris, you want to chime in here on that last question?
I think Leslie has covered it broadly, and ultimately to the extent that this initiative here tonight can help influence personal responsibility in terms of the decisions that we make as individuals, I think is also going to go some ways in terms of helping us to be able to cope. So in terms of the choices of the clothing we wear, so try to stay away from dark clothing, for example, when we are in the outdoors. And obviously, younger people and older people are going to be quite more vulnerable to the impact of the heat in terms of heat stroke, heat stresses, and so forth. So to the extent that we can take personal responsibilities in terms of the decisions that we make on a daily basis, I think can contribute to us being able to better survive in the context of what Mr. Smith has just painted, the picture that he has painted. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Well, gentlemen, I wish we can sit here and, have this discussion going, on and on and on. But we've come to the end of the program. That's all the time we have. But just before we go, let me start with you. What key takeaway you would like our listeners and viewers to go with tonight?
So what I basically want to say to our viewers and listeners is that we all have a responsibility to protect, preserve, and enhance our environment. We need to make responsible decisions. We need to purchase energy-efficient appliances. We need to reduce on our electricity consumption. We need to educate and create awareness of that, because we need to have an environment that is clean, that is safe for our successive generations to come. So let's all play our part to protect, preserve, and enhance our very fragile environment.
Chris, your final words, and what key takeaway you would like our audience to hold on to from this program this evening?
So we would like the viewing audience to know that in terms of another major activity that is coming up, Carriacou is not being left out. So we will be in Carriacou this Friday in terms of one of those kilo walks. It begins at 4:30, and all of the necessary arrangements have been made. So we're going to encourage individuals to please participate, come out. Information in terms of tips and so forth is going to be shared during that activity. There are a number of giants that I think that is contributing to the conversation in the context of energy, wise energy use, the conversation about climate change, but to be able to continue, and Grenada has made a number of developments in that regard. So individuals like yourself, Mr. Augustine, relative to the program that you have helping to raise the awareness, you're a giant, both figuratively and in terms of your stature. Mr. Leon Charles, Dr. Spencer Thomas, Spanner, Peters, Dr. Peters, these are all giants. Mr. Leslie Smith, these are all giants. But we need to continue having giants to be able to help us as a nation to be able to deal with this threat. And to the extent that individuals at the secondary and tertiary level can contemplate their studies in the area of climate-related science and so forth, is going to help augment giants for the future to be able to enable the changes that are required. Also, I just want to say, to the extent that we can, Christmas tree lighting is something that is a practice, something that is big here. To the extent that you can find Christmas tree lights that are solar, I think that is going to be, Mrs. Smith is going to be very happy about that, because then in terms of the consumption that happens from conventional Christmas tree lights, we can minimize that. We can mitigate the use of energy through the use of solar Christmas tree lights. So to the extent that they are available, I think that is going to be a good choice that individuals can make in the context of taking personal responsibility, even as we enjoy the festive season. Thank you very much.
Chris. And folks, that's all the time we have this evening. I just want to say a special thanks to our partners for making this program possible. Republic Bank, Hubbard's, Classic Lighting, Grenada Paper Products, Budget Marine, and of course Spice Isle Imaging Center. I also want to remind you that this Friday there is the launch of the solar equipment at the Grenada Trade Center. It starts at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon, of course, and you will have the opportunity to see solar generators, solar lights. Chris just mentioned the Christmas lights. They also have Christmas lights that are solar powered fans for cooling. We've been talking about that. So quite a lot is happening, and I'm sure you'll see Mr. Smith there. So thank you very much. I just want to end by saying, as I said earlier, generating renewable energy creates far lower emissions than burning fossil fuels. Transitioning from fossil fuels to renewable energy is key to addressing the climate crisis. That's our program for tonight this evening. Join us next Wednesday for episode 10 of our Climate Reality. Have a good night.
Our Climate Reality comes to you compliments Republic Bank, we're the one for you. Classic Lighting, Budget Marine Grenada, Spice Isle Imaging Center, Hubbard's, Grenada Paper Products, Quick and Easy, Royal, and Horizon Paper Towels.